Hi, good morning to everyone. In this meeting with us, my name is Joel Ocasio Marcano. I'm interim deputy director for the procurement division for the Community Development Block Grant, Disaster Recovery, and Community Development Grant Block Grant Mitigation, CDBG-DR, CDBG-MIT. In this pre-proposal meeting, we're going to explain the process for the CDBG-DRMIT-RFP-2022-09, request for proposals for construction monitoring services. I would like to introduce the Puerto Rico Department of Housing personnel. Along with me is David Cordero Hernandez, procurement official, Ruth Hernandez Mendez, also procurement official, Wolfgang Jeter-Heitek from the Economic Development Division, and Maria Rodriguez Medina from the Federal Compliance and Subrecipient Management Division. Any questions submitted in this meeting will be answered in writing and will be published in an addendum. Any information provided in this meeting does not change the terms and conditions established in the request for proposals instruction. All procurement processes shall be conducted in accordance with the terms and conditions established in the procurement manual for the CDBG-DR program to guarantee full and open competition of fair treatment of all persons and entities involved in each procurement process. The procurement manual is available at our webpage and is incorporated by reference. I made an integral part of this RFP. Nothing said in this proposal, in this pre-proposal meeting will change any of the terms of the RFP except those written in amendment through an addendum. Now we have I'm gonna leave you with Wolfgang Jeter-Heitek, who was going to explain the scope of services for this process. Wolfgang.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome. Our scope of services is looking for key staff for persons to evaluate the construction loans certifications submitted by some developers in order for us to disperse and the amounts that they were certified for the construction periods that the debtors have performed in their projects. This is a specific program that the Department of Housing will invest in a loan instead of a grant. So we will be disbursing money for developers to construct key and vital infrastructure and construction program loans. This will be from $10 to $50 million projects, specific more inclined or geared to hotel and construction and reconstruction, and also tourism projects, according to a construction loan agreement, and those certifications to be performed, to be evaluated of the job performed by them. Every disbursement from our side would be based on the certification submitted on a monthly or by monthly basis, and then we'll receive, analyze, and then proceed for disbursement. In a nutshell, that's the way this scope of services will be based. If you have any question.
Thank you, Wolfgang. The RFP documents are available for download. at the CDBG-DR website. The important dates for this RFP are the following: submission of questions and request for clarifications on or before September 14, 2022. Responses to questions and requests for clarifications, September 20, 2022. Proposals due date from October 11, 2022 at 9 a.m. up to October 13, 2022 at 4 p.m. Submission of inquiries and addenda. Each prospective proposer shall submit all questions in writing on or before September 14, 2022 to the CDBG-DR mailing address. Responses to all proposers' questions will be answered by addenda and will be posted on the CDBG-DR website. All documents related to this acquisition process, including the addenda issued by the Puerto Rico Department of Housing, are and will be available for download at the CDBG-DR website. All proposers are responsible to monitor the CDBG-DR website of any issued addenda in this RFP. Proposals are to be submitted on the proposal due date stated in section 4.3 of this RFP. Responses to the RFP submitted after the prescribed deadline will not be allowed. Submission of responses to the RFP will only be accepted by electronic means. Proposers are advised that the PRDOH will neither require nor accept physical proposal submissions. If proposals are submitted in both electronic and in paper format, the PRDOH will only consider the electronic format evaluation. The proposer will receive access to submit the electronic proposal after registration process is completed through the CDBG-DR website. At the scheduled due date for electronic proposal submission, a link button will be enabled to provide access to the registration form. Proposers should complete all the required fields in the form. Proposal must be submitted within the closing date and time for proposals as established in section 4.3 of this RFP. Access to upload the electronic proposals will commence 3 business days before the scheduled due date and time. Now, David Cordero will continue the presentation.
Thank you, Ruth. Good morning, everyone. I'll be explaining the evaluation criteria of this RFP. The evaluation committee will evaluate responsive proposals in accordance with the criteria listed below. The criteria below are listed in order of importance. Professional qualifications and experience of the proposer to successfully perform the service required in this RFP, as evidenced by the successful preparation of commercial development, construction, monitoring, and inspection reports similar in scope and complexity to the reports required in this RFP. Professional qualification and specialized experience of the proposed key personnel as evidenced by relevant experience to the role proposed. Quality of the proposed approach and its relevance to the services described in this RFP, including implementation schedule and understanding of the PRDOH goals. Capacity of the key personnel and the ability to commit adequate time to effectively perform the services in the role assigned within the required time frame. Financial stability of the proposer and its capacity to effectively perform the service. Level, quality, and relevancy of participation by Section 3 business concern and MBE, WBE registered Puerto Rico business. Also, it's important that the proposer and first-tier subcontractor must be registered in the System of Award Management, SAM, at the time of the proposal submission or initiate the registration process right after the bid submission. For more information about the System Award Management, go to the SAM webpage. There is no registration fee to create, renew, or update your organization's information on SAM. Awards will only be issued to entities that are cleared and not ineligible for award of a contract due to suspension, debatement, or had imposed limited denial of participation. Now we have a presentation from Maria Rodriguez Medina from the Federal Compliance and Subrecipient Management Division for an introduction to Section 3 and MWBE business.
Good morning. I will be presenting the federal compliance requirements for this procurement. I will begin my presentation in 2 seconds. Sorry.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for the space to present compliance and labor standards requirements. This presentation is prepared in English. However, should anyone need this presentation in Spanish, you can request using the protocols for this procurement to submit the request. I am representing the Department of Housing Federal Compliance team, led by Maria del Carmen Figueroa. Today, we will discuss as part of our agenda an overview of compliance roles and responsibilities. We will also cover some tools that are available online. We will also talk about documenting efforts, taking advantage of training that's made available, and reporting requirements, as well as frequently asked questions. In this presentation, we will be discussing Section 3 training, hiring, and contracting opportunities, minority and women-owned business participation, fair housing and equal opportunity, and Davis-Bacon and the related acts. Contractors or subrecipients using CDBG-DR or CDBG-MIT funding have certain roles and responsibilities. These include assigning staff who will attend the day-to-day implementation of federal compliance requirements, attending trainings and workshops, using tools and templates, executing the activities, and completing documentation that's required. You can also participate in Department of Housing sponsored technical assistance sessions. You must complete quarterly reporting and comply with the reporting requirements. The procurement package contains language that offers contractors the ability to seek bonus points. Please remember to use the references and the templates that are made available and that we will be discussing in this presentation. Proposers seeking Section 3 bonus points should provide their self-certifications and sufficient evidence for how they qualify as a Section 3 business. The Department of Housing offers a template on their website. Proposers who are seeking MBE or WBE bonus points should provide a copy of their MWBE certification to provide evidence of this status. The certificates provided should show the dates and indicate that they are currently active. The procurement package contains sections that speak to the applicability and the requirements for MWBE. Within those sections, you will find helpful links to online resources that are made available, such as the policy guide. Procurement packages also contain language for Section 3 under 24 CFR 75. This language speaks to the applicability and compliance with Section 3. Within the section, you will find helpful links to online resources that are made available, such as the policy guide and self-certification templates. Let's talk about Section 3. Section 3 is a federal requirement from the Housing and Urban Development Act of 1968. This requirement states that we should provide, to the greatest extent feasible, job training, employment, contracting, and other economic opportunities generated by this HUD financial assistance to be directed to low and very low-income persons and businesses. The Department of Housing makes available a Section 3 policy guide on their website, both in English and in Spanish. Contractors must read and implement activities as applicable and necessary. They also are responsible for their subcontractors assuring that benchmarks are met. For Section 3 projects, 24 CFR 75 has established the following benchmarks. 25% of the total labor hours for a project should be work hours of Section 3 workers. And from that 25%, 5% of the total labor hours should be work hours of targeted Section 3 workers. Let's talk about the definition of a Section 3 business. A Section 3 business refers to a business concern meeting at least one of the following criteria, which is documented within the last 6 months. The business is at least 51% owned and controlled by low or very low income persons. It could also be a business that has at least 51% ownership and controlled by a public housing resident or residents who currently live in Section 8 assisted housing. It could also be a business that has over 75% of the labor hours performed for that business over the prior 3-month period by Section 3 workers. In this slide, we're going to look at the definition of a Section 3 worker. A Section 3 worker can be any worker who fits or, when hired within the last 5 years, fit at least one of the following categories. The worker's income for the previous or annualized calendar year is below the income limit established by HUD. It could also be a worker who is employed by a Section 3 business concern. Or the worker is a youth build participant. Now let's talk about what a targeted Section 3 worker is. A Section 3 targeted worker for community development financial assistance projects is a person who is employed by a Section 3 business. It could also be a person who currently fits or when hired fit at least one of the following categories as documented within the past 5 years. Someone living within the service area or the neighborhood of the project as defined in 24 CFR 75.5 or a youth build participant. The neighborhood or service area for a targeted Section 3 worker is that in which you can find at least 5,000 persons within a 1-mile radius of the project. If there are less than 5,000 persons within that 1-mile radius, you can expand that radius until you have 5,000 persons around the Section 3 covered project site. Each year, HUD releases new income limits. These income limits typically come out around April. The latest income limits for 2022 are made available on the slide. The Department of Housing has created various forms for helping maintain compliance. There is a Section 3 plan that can be used by contractors or subrecipients. There are also Section 3 self-certification forms. And finally, there is a form to help you document your efforts. Let's take a closer look at your Section 3 plan. This document helps you identify new hiring needs, subcontracting needs. It helps you plan your outreach efforts and assists your coordinators in identifying the day-to-day activities. It helps you define compliant procedures, and it helps you understand your reporting requirements. You can use the link on the slide to visit the website and download a Section 3 plan template. In this slide, we want to focus on the Section 3 self-certification forms. These useful tools help you uncover if workers or subcontracting businesses meet the income thresholds required. HUD offers also a business registry. This registry allows you to register yourself as a Section 3 business. The registry also has a tool that helps serve folks looking for Section 3 business databases. We will now turn our attention to minority and women-owned business compliance. There are various regulations that call for the inclusion of minorities and women business enterprises. 2 CFR 200.321, as well as Executive Orders 11625, 12138, and 12432 establish the participation of MWBE firms, which seek to ensure that when possible, contracts and other economic opportunities funded in whole or in part with federal housing and community development assistance are directed to minority business enterprises and women business enterprises. The Department of Housing has established an MWBE policy guide. This is available on the website in both English and Spanish. You can access those documents using the link on the slide. Let's look at what a minority business enterprise is. An MBE is defined as a business which is at least 51% owned, operated, and controlled on a daily basis by one or more American citizens of the following ethnic minority and/or gender and/or military veteran classifications: African American, Asian American, Hispanic American, Native American, Hasidic Jew, persons with disabilities, and other individuals who can prove social and economic disadvantage. Women business enterprises, or WBEs, are businesses that are at least 51% owned and controlled by one or more women. The owners must be U.S. citizens or legal resident aliens whose business formation and principal place of business are here in the U.S. or its territories, and whose management and daily operation is controlled by women. The MWBE policy guide will identify that there are goals which apply to professional services, purchasing supplies, and construction contracting. There is a total of 20% minimum participation goal. This 20% is comprised of 10% for women-owned businesses and 10% for minority-owned businesses. Contractors are expected to perform good faith efforts for contracting, subcontracting, and purchasing opportunities of $10,000 or more during the life of the contract. The Department of Housing has also created various forms for helping maintain compliance with MWBE. One of those is the MWBE Utilization Plan. This document template allows contractors or subrecipients to identify how they plan on being in compliance with these contracting goals. There is also a waiver form. This document allows contractors or subrecipients to identify if they meet the requirements to waive their goals for MWBE. Let's look at the MWBE Utilization Plan. This tool helps you compile data for your subcontracting. It helps you identify what needs you may have. It helps hold discussions on creating supplier and contractor listings, and it provides awareness of meeting the goal for the contract and tracking. You can use the link on the slide to go to the website and download the plan template. Let's review how you should complete your MWBE Utilization Plan. The Department of Housing Utilization Plan template can be used throughout the life cycle of your contract. Completing the plan is pretty easy. You should read the general instructions in row 3 and complete sections A, B, and F from the document. Complete the information requested in the yellow cells. When we talk about certified minority or women-owned businesses, we are referring to those who have filed applications with federal entities such as SBA and others that you see here on the slide. Businesses who are certified can provide proof of completing an application process to be officially recognized as a certified minority or women-owned business. If you are registered as an MWBE, you should provide your valid certificate or other evidence in response to this RFP. In this section, we will be discussing how to complete your efforts and quarterly reporting. In order for you to report your efforts, the Department of Housing provides a tool. This tool helps you document and identify how often you are seeking interactions with Section 3 businesses and MWBE businesses. The quarterly reporting form allows for you to share and report your data with the Department of Housing. This allows the agency to fulfill oversight responsibilities and monitor the progress throughout the year. The Department of Housing's quarterly reporting form allows for the user to capture multiple compliance areas all in one Excel form. Section 3 data is collected. MWBE data is collected as well. FHEO information is also documented within the report. And finally, for those who have construction projects, there is a report for Davis-Bacon Unfound Workers Efforts Reporting. Awarded contractors will be responsible for reporting 4 times a year, on April 5th, July 5th, October 5th, and January 5th. This ensures that you are meeting benchmarks and documenting your efforts. The quarterly reporting template is also available on the Department of Housing website. Let's briefly discuss FHEO. Your RFP package will also contain a model contract which outlines fair housing and equal opportunity areas of compliance. Contractors are responsible for ensuring compliance with federal civil rights and fair housing through their contractors, subcontractors, and so forth, ensuring that all necessary efforts are being made. The Fair Housing Act and Sections 109 and 504 prohibit discrimination against the following protected classes of people: race, color, national origin, religion, sex, age, familial status, disability, gender identity, and sexual orientation. The Fair Housing Act is part of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. There are many executive orders, laws, and statutes that govern the non-discrimination of protected classes to ensure equal opportunity for individuals in accessing federally funded programs. Equal opportunity is afforded to protected classes through a number of these federal laws and executive orders. The Department of Housing has published policy documents attending FHEO as well as Language Access Plan. These policies must be implemented by contractors and subrecipients. They are publicly available online in both English and Spanish. You are encouraged to click on the links and access the resources available. As a recipient of HUD financial assistance, the Department of Housing must ensure that all programs affirmatively further access to fair housing and that the programs provide equal opportunity for participation and employment. Reasonable accommodations are changes made to policies, practices, services, and structures, or modifications to afford equal opportunity to individuals with disabilities. The costs associated with providing reasonable accommodations and modifications are to be incurred by programs receiving federal funding. HUD contemplates these additional costs as necessary to ensure that the programs and activities it funds do not discriminate against people with disabilities. The slide contains a link for you to access the reasonable accommodation page on the Department of Housing website. Limited English proficiency refers to a person's limited ability to read, write, speak, or understand English. Due to Puerto Rico's high Spanish-speaking population, all entities and contractors using the CDBG-DR funding must seek to ensure that both a person's limited ability to read, write, speak, or understand English or Spanish will not place them at a disadvantage in the participation of programs. In this section, we will now talk about the Davis-Bacon Act and the related acts. The Department of Housing has published the Davis-Bacon Policy Guide and made it available in English and in Spanish. The Department of Housing, its subrecipients, and their contractors must implement and comply with this policy when it's applicable. Most construction projects funded with CDBG-DR and CDBG-MIT funds must comply with Davis-Bacon and related acts requirements to ensure that laborers and mechanics are paid prevailing wages. This includes overtime for the work performed on these federally funded projects. Contractors awarded contracts with these federal funds are responsible for understanding and complying with Davis-Bacon and related acts requirements. The Department of Housing and its subrecipients are responsible for oversight. This includes reviewing payroll and other records related to the work performed using these federal funds for construction projects and ensure compliance with the requirements. In this presentation, we will discuss the applicability of these federal labor standards: Housing and Community Development Act, 29 CFR 5, Davis-Bacon Act, Fair Labor Standards Act, Contract Work Hours and Safety Standards Act, and the Copeland Anti-Kickback Act. The Davis-Bacon Act requires payment of prevailing wages as determined by the Department of Labor. It provides a fair opportunity to compete in building programs funded by the federal government. It prevents contractors from bidding below an area's prevailing wages. This law and requirement generally applies to federally funded or assisted programs that are valued at more than $2,000. Contracts for the following types of work on public buildings or public works include construction, alteration and repair, and even painting and decorating. The Contract Work Hours and Safety Standards Act, known as QASA, states that workers should not work more than 40 hours a week unless they are being compensated overtime, and that projects must comply with certain safety standards. The Copeland Anti-Kickback Act requires that there be payment of wages at least once a week, and it only speaks to permissible payroll deductions being allowed. The Fair Labor Standards Act sets the federal minimum wages and additional overtime requirements. In this slide, we discuss who from a construction project funded with CDBG-DR and CDBG-MIT is responsible for implementing Davis-Bacon and the related acts. The implementation begins with the project team, who will be responsible for reviewing payrolls and preparing invoice packages. Procurement teams are also responsible for incorporating the correct compliance documents and wage rates within the procurement packages. Legal teams are responsible for incorporating correct compliance documents and wage rates in contracts before they are executed. The compliance team for each respective entity will be responsible for guiding the compliance activities that happen. Contractors and subcontractors working on the projects that are funded with CDBG-DR and CDBG-MIT are directly responsible for implementing the day-to-day compliance with the Davis-Bacon Act and the related acts. The following slide discusses the major phases that are found within a construction project. There are activities that happen during procurement, during the pre-bid meeting, during a pre-construction meeting, during a contract signing, during on-site interviews, collecting and reviewing certified payrolls, notifying prime contractors, and when the project finishes, producing the project closeout letter, and finally, the ongoing reporting and record keeping. This slide shows the entire life cycle of a construction project from a DBRA compliance perspective, written out step by step. The first 5 steps address the procurement, pre-construction, and initial construction kickoff phases. As we continue reviewing the following steps, we cover the construction implementation phases of payroll review, contractor corrections and notifications, and finally the project closeout letter, record retention, and biannual reporting. Additional resources. For some construction projects, even when the Davis-Bacon Act doesn't apply, you may still have to comply with other regulations such as QASA and FLSA. In those cases, you will still have to maintain record keeping and oversight responsibilities. DOL Wage and Hour Division can also directly monitor and oversee your activity. The HUD 4010 form includes various clauses and important language for prime contractors and any subcontractors working on a federally funded project. Contractors must include this form with all subcontracting tiers to ensure compliance with Davis-Bacon and the related acts. DOL makes available the posters that must be included on a project site. The link to access these posters is included in the slide. They are available in multiple languages, including English and Spanish. Contractor penalties and consequences for non-compliance. The Department of Housing discusses penalties and consequences as part of its policy guide. These such actions may include having contract payments withheld in sufficient amounts to satisfy unpaid wages and liquidated damages that result from violations. You could also be subject to debarment from future contracts for up to 3 years, and other potential consequences. We encourage you to visit our website and find additional resources such as the frequently asked questions, the Contractor's Implementation Guide, and many other additional trainings. Let's briefly discuss some common, frequently asked questions. Can a business be both Section 3 and MWBE? The answer is yes. A business or a contractor can be both because these compliance areas are actually separate. Section 3 identifies the level of incomes to determine the status. MWBE uses race and gender information to qualify a business. If I am not planning on subcontracting, do I still need to complete documents? The answer is yes. You should still submit your MWBE utilization plan, the documentation of efforts template, and your quarterly reports. If Section 3 doesn't apply to my contract, do I still have to complete the quarterly report? The answer is yes. You will have to complete the MWBE portion of the report and the portion of the report that attends to FHEO. If I'm either an MBE or WBE, do I fulfill the total goals? You may have safe harbor for one of the goals for MWBE participation of 10%, but you will still have an additional 10% goal to show good faith efforts for any subcontracting or purchasing you perform with the CDBG-DR and CDBG-MIT funding. What happens if I don't fulfill the goals before the end of my contract? All awarded contractors should perform and document their efforts. The Department of Housing has developed templates discussed in this presentation that help you complete the exercise. You can submit a waiver before the end of your contract for approval. This waiver request should be submitted with the efforts and justification as appropriate. Thank you for attending today's training. We hope you found the material helpful. Please remember to direct all your questions through the established protocols for this procurement. Thank you to the procurement team for allowing us to present this material. I will stop sharing the presentation so you can continue with the session.
Thank you.
Thank you, Maria. That's all the information we have to share with you today. Please keep in mind the due dates established in the RFP. And thank you for your attendance. Any questions, please be submitted in written to our email address, cdbg-procurement@vivienda.pr.gov. Thank you for your attendance and have a good day.